All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the AM Sports Podcast. Res Obsessed, thank you for joining and watching. I see that that you're logged in, and for everyone else watching, again, just thank you. I'm Martin. The other gentleman on video is a tag team partner in crime, Alex Whitecorn. What's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. So I want to talk some UFC because lately we've been talking a little bit about football and the NBA, and we always talk about it. We always talk a lot of UFC as well, but it's been a couple weeks. But there's been two big things in the this week, and we're only to Wednesday, that have kind of come to surface. One being Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather, and I want to hold that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I want to start off talking about the rumor or potential of Dana White selling UFC. Man, like, what are you hearing about that? Since you work for MMA focus and centric radio show, what's the word around the water cooler?
Yeah, this is something that we talked about on Knockout Radio tonight, and basically it is getting a lot of traction now because there was a report from ESPN, from the four-letter network. This is actually something people are talking about it now. I don't know why it's taking this long for people to really get all sort of up in arms about this, because this is actually something we were talking about two and a half months ago, that when this reporting first came out. There was apparently a businessman, a Chinese businessman, lots of money to throw around, and there was a valuation roughly between $3.5 and $4 billion back then. And then now there's this ESPN reporting where right now it's all the same information. And it depends on who you talk to, because if you're talking to ESPN or media, some media in general, they're the ones saying, okay, there's this report, everything that I just said, and apparently they're advanced in their deal talks. You talk to Dana White, he says the UFC is not for sale. There's no basis to any of this reporting, but there could be some sort of deal in order to expand the current reach, the scope of the UFC and specifically Zuffa empire. So, my personal opinion is there's no basis for this. In my opinion, I don't think that there's. And that's actually my next point, Res Obsess. There is not necessarily a basis to all of this. I think that there's a lot being made out of not all that much information. And as Res just said, Dana isn't actually the one who would make the majority of the decision. If they did sell for $4 billion, he would stand to make $400 million because he is a 10% owner. But this is going mainly to Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta, the primary owners of Zuffa. And they also have additional investors. It's not just them anymore. I think about 5 years ago, there was a group out of Abu Dhabi who invested as well. So Dana is only a portion. He has always been a very small portion, but he's the face of the UFC, and that's what everybody sort of thinks of is the bald father, because that's who we see, and he's always the talking head, if you will. But long story short, I think the chances of this happening at all are fairly slim. Something we were talking about earlier tonight, something I actually disagree with is whether the UFC has any sort of upside still to what they are now. You think the initial investment was a purchase of $2 million in 2001.
Right.
Now it's estimated somewhere between $3.5 and $4 billion. And you say that, and it's like, that is an insane amount of money. Why would you not sell? Because you're obviously made a great return on investment if you sold right now. The problem with that is it's just like any sort of investment. If you look at the stock market, if you see an upswing in activity and things are going really well, where's the jumping off point? Do you think it's going to keep going, If so, then you want to hold on. If you think that it's almost at the peak and it's going to take a turn, might as well sell now, because you lose your potential for making your money if you end up getting off the train too early or too late. Excuse me. So I personally don't think that they will happen. They will end up selling. I do think that they're going to keep on growing if they do continue to expand. We haven't seen much growth yet in Asia. And that was obviously something that has been a big thing for them recently. They've gone to Macau. They've gone to they've gone to South Korea, and they're going to continue with that. They need to continue to go into Asia, probably India. You're talking about a very significant chunk of the world population, so they need to continue to do that. And I don't see how you cannot make more money to include so many people that you otherwise might not get to bring in to the market. So that's more my opinion. They have a lot to go still.
So I wonder if it's just all the speculation about Dana White, or just UFC in general, but specifically selling, and wondering if it's more just not them selling, but them just trying to, if like the 411 Network and other media outlets are just misinterpreting this, and this is UFC just trying to establish itself in Asia. Like, for example, where they have a UFC card in Beijing or something like that.
Sure.
So my next question is, and off chance, it's just hard to imagine. Could you imagine someone else, like you said, Dana White is a minority owner. He only has 10% of the company, and it's just like with professional sports teams. A lot of times, it's people think it's just one owner. It's not just one owner. It's a group of owners. It's an ownership group, and then you just have and you always have the majority or some type of the face of the face of the franchise or the ownership. Could you imagine someone else like owning or just being the face of UFC? Like, I mean, that just, if Dana White by some off chance, if the UFC did sell, if that group did sell, what do you think? Like, how hard would it be just to see that person as someone else as the face?
This is another thing we talked about, and how a lot of that growth from 2001 to now, that change from a $2 million company to a $4 billion company is a lot due to what Dana White has done. He's the one that had a huge part in that, and once again, Russ is on it. I don't think there'd be any way they would let Dana White go. He would be an integral part into not only the continued growth, but even just the maintenance of the brand, because he would be that consistency in between owners. So he did so much to grow the company at the beginning. He knows how to sell fights. He knows how to market and brand, and he's done a great job of that. He was a promoter before he was involved with Zuffa. So he was actually Tito Ortiz's manager way back when. So he's been a part of that growth game in the marketing. So you would need to have that familiarity from the old guard to the new guard, if you will. Yeah. It would. I don't think we would see somebody else, at least for the first year, maybe 2 years, and he would have to have it structured in his contract where he would have some job security at least for a couple of years, and it would behoove the new owners to do that. Again, this is strictly if they did decide to sell, which, again, personal opinion, I don't think is going to happen.
Yeah, same here. I just thought, and you said this has been kind of talked about in the MMA community for the past couple months. Yeah. But it kind of came mainstream yesterday. And UFC, mixed martial arts, it's very popular and it's continuing to grow. Sure. It's still not quite as household. I don't think it's getting there. It's trying to get there. And more and more people are starting to get more familiar with the Conor McGregors and Ronda Rouseys, even though they're both coming off losses. They're still the household names, and Dana White's part of that household name when you talk UFC and mixed martial arts. Before we move on to McGregor Mayweather, you said that Dana White used to be Tito Ortiz's manager at one point. Yeah. From what you know, how is the relationship today? Is it still pretty? Because I imagine that when Dana White was a manager, that and rest of subs, I agree. I do see value in Dana White's persona. But Alex, yeah, I just want to kind of get your opinion. Like, at some point they had to have a pretty good relationship at one point if Dana White was the manager. So do you think that's still pretty strong, or has there definitely been a rift?
Oh no, there's a big part of that story where they were when Tito was in his prime in the UFC around his championship days. There was at one point in time no love lost between those two. It was really good, and then it got really, really bad. And as far as I know, I don't think they would necessarily be on speaking terms right now, unless it is strictly business related. I haven't heard anything to indicate that they would have gotten over their past discrepancies or whatever their issues have been over the years. But it did get really, really bad, and I know for a fact that it's not where it used to be. They're not on good terms, but I don't know if I would go out of my way to say that they hate each other or something along those lines. So it has been a back and forth, but certainly a lot of time has passed too. But now the Tito's in Bellator, that certainly doesn't help things at all. So, no love lost between those two.
Switching gears, there's been a lot of talk of Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather, and I've always been a fan of UFC and mixed martial arts. Of course, when you talk mixed martial arts, UFC is definitely the name brand. It's it's what is household. But I kind of feel like lately it's starting to turn in more of the, and this is funny that we have Russ Obsess, and please feel free to chat in your comment. It seems like UFC is starting to turn in more into like a WWE, where I just feel like they're doing rather, it just seems like they're trying to stir up all this controversy and just trying to, do you see what I'm getting at? Like the way they're trying to promote these certain angles and upcoming fights. Just what do you think about all the hoopla? I kind of feel like, and even with the John Jones Cormier fight that was supposed to happen at 197, a part of me feels like that was intentional. Like where I know Cormier got hurt or whatever, but where it happened on purpose so they could put that fight on UFC 200. And now we're talking about Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather. Just again,
a little bit of conspiracy theory. Going there. First off, I don't think that anything is ever. People don't get injured on purpose. I don't. In this case, they don't go out of their way to fix things, if that makes sense. In that way, with the MMA community, they are. If they're signed to fight, they're going to fight unless they get hurt. Chances are, the injury bug is going to strike any particular card at some point in time. We have seen this with Anderson Silva.
We've seen this a lot of cards.
For UFC 198, which is this weekend. He had gallbladder surgery this morning, emergency gallbladder surgery this morning. It was successful, but he's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks until he can resume training. We saw that with Dennis Seaver getting ready for UFC 199 against BJ Penn. Last I saw, right before we left air, it looks like they're working on BJ Penn Cole Miller for UFC 199. So the injury bug is something that happens on its own. I don't think they try to mess with fights that are already put together because they're going to have enough problems trying to keep a card together in the first place. So now that part of my rant is over, getting to McGregor Mayweather, this is about as large of a non-story as you can get. This is completely 100% irrelevant. They're saying that Dana White said, with regards to that fight, Floyd, call me. If Floyd wants to fight Conor, Floyd, call me. Even if he actually did say that, there is no way this fight happens. This is not something that would be good for anybody involved. If you have an MMA fighter in a boxing match, the boxer is going to win. If you have a boxer in an MMA fight, the MMA fighter is going to win.
Right, so, depending on, yeah.
I don't know that. I personally have not heard that, whether or not Mayweather came out and said that he started the rumor. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, at all. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if it came from either of them. They're both such talkers that I wouldn't put past either of them. Conor has been known to say crazy stuff from time to time.
Just put their name out there.
Sure, yeah, and this is one thing that I was saying before everything was happening with the quote unquote retirement talk. He never once said that he retired,
right?
But he was keeping himself relevant. Exactly, yeah. James Toney versus Randy Couture. That was not a fight. That was an ass whipping that Couture put on Toney. It was absolutely awful,
and out of shape. An out of shape boxer.
Yeah, a boxer versus a champion, by the way, a UFC champion. Come on. I mean, that won't happen. It's not. We've seen this before with that fight. It's names. They're talking. They're trying to stay relevant in a time where they don't have anything 100% lined up right now. So. It's much ado about absolutely nothing.
I agree. I always, and that's what I was getting at earlier with the whole hoopla and just trying to create some type of controversy. Just put, and maybe controversy isn't necessarily the right word, but just trying to get the name out there and just get more people talking. And I was kind of like, I don't like that. It just seems, it doesn't seem organic or natural. It just seems manufactured. Sure. And I don't like that. And that's one thing I like about, that's what I love about UFC. It's just this, I like it when, because it's real, it's not scripted, and when it just happens, like, I love the intensity. I think about, for example, last year, the whole Ronda Rousey versus Paige Correia, just the lead up to the fight when Correia fought a couple of Rousey's teammates, and it was just like you could just feel the intensity. Check this Mayweather.
I saw that earlier where Mayweather runs around the entire time, and then he's getting on his knees and pleading. That was a pretty good one. And that's pretty much how I think it would go too. Again, if it's an MMA fight, if it's a boxing match, then Mayweather would just
depending on the type of fight or the rules.
And that was actually one of the questions that was coming up when they were first talking about Holly Holm. I think it was even before she had started to fight in MMA. I think there was a big deal made about her because she was a 23-time world champion boxer. She had, I believe, she was undefeated in her boxing career. I might be wrong on that. Don't quote me, but she had so much success as a boxer. And the same thing you were saying is, until she has fought in MMA fights, you can't say that she could go in and win an MMA fight because she had no experience. And of course, somebody who's a well-trained MMA fighter is going to beat a boxer in an MMA game, and vice versa.
And even with her win against Rousey, it wasn't necessarily, obviously her boxing was a huge advantage and it came into play, but she also had those kicks. And
in her footwork in general.
Yeah, the footwork. And that actually goes into boxing too, because in boxing you have to have excellent footwork, but the final blow was just that vicious kick. But going back to McGregor and Mayweather, they're both salesmen, they're both promotional self-promoters. And part of me wonders, I do believe that Mayweather's actually the one who circulated this and started this rumor. The reason I say that is because last weekend you had the Canelo Alvarez Amir Khan boxing fight, which is one of the bigger boxing fights we've seen in a while, with the exception of Mayweather Pacquiao. And of course, Mayweather beat Alvarez a couple years ago. So, and there was just a lot of focus put on that fight, and of course, the fight was promoted by Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya's promotion. So I part of me just thinks that maybe Mayweather just wanted to put something out there to kind of take away from that and put his name or
make
back in the
relevant.
Yeah. So
absolutely make relevant.
Yeah, make himself
as much help
relevant
as he can get.
Yeah.
Everybody needs as much help as they can get when they don't have anything lined up. So I mean, if you don't have something that's coming up, then there's no reason for people to talk about you. So you have to give them a reason. You have to manufacture a reason for that.
Hey, one last question I want to talk about before I got to get going. Sure. Is since we have Rest Obsessed, so you're obviously big in professional wrestling. Alex, what do you think? And Rest Obsessed, please feel free to chat as well. What are your thoughts, and how do you feel about pro wrestlers that cross over into mixed martial arts, whether it's Brock Lesnar, Dave Bautista, CM Punk?
Bottom line, they're not just like with boxing, they're not MMA fighters until they step into a cage and that cage door closes and they come out the other side. You have to be baptized by fire. You can train as much as you want in that style, but until you have to put it to work, then you're not you have not successfully started that career. So up to this point, and man, Rest, we're in lockstep on all of this. And I'm not saying that CM Punk, real name Phil Brooks, is going to be a bad MMA fighter. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. You have to be a great athlete to be successful at both sports, but he just hasn't proved himself yet. And I think there is a lot of experience and maturity that comes from getting your ass kicked. So I think that Ronda Rousey is going through that growth right now. Same thing with Conor McGregor to an extent. I mean, if you have not lost before, and I know Conor had lost before, but especially on that sort of stage, you need to have some sort of humility that happens there. And Brock Lesnar, he lost to Frank Mir.
Yeah.
So and he
was winning that fight, but Frank Mir just caught him in. Yeah, he got him in that submission. Brock left himself exposed.
Absolutely, and so with that comes experience. Someone like Brock, who has the size and amateur wrestling skill, so it
absolutely,
sure, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Of course, and all these different fighters, wrestlers, boxers, they come from different backgrounds. So you have to give them the opportunity. You don't have to give them the opportunity. If they are given the opportunity, then they take it, then it gives them the chance to test themselves and try other things. So, and I think that was one of the things Brooks said that he wanted to do when it was first coming out, that he was looking to go to MMA and signed with the UFC, was that he wanted to challenge himself. And that's actually one thing that Dave Bautista said.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, we had him in studio. It was him and Stefan Bonner. We had them in studio. Dave is in this area, in the Tampa area, and Bonner was here helping him get ready for his one and only MMA fight, pro MMA fight. And that was one of the things that he said. He said he had started out his entire career as a bodybuilder. He went over to pro wrestling. It was a natural fit for him, but he never got the chance to really test himself. So a lot of guys and girls want to do that and say, hey, you know what? Let's see if we can lace him up and take some real shots and see if I can impose my will on someone. So when it comes down, he did.
That would have been good to see, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of getting in there, getting some experience, getting some maturity, and learning more about what an MMA fight is actually like, and then trying to take that knowledge and that learning, that lesson that comes from it, and then agreed. Kurt Angle definitely would have had, I think, a good run in MMA, but it's all about trying to take your lessons and make the best of them. So Lesnar did that. He was forced out because of diverticulitis. He was
Right.
sick. He had 14 months in between his fights, his last 2 fights, because of that. And Alistair Overeem landed a big kick to his stomach, and that was it. So,
Say goodnight, Gracie.
yeah, absolutely. You would like to have seen what he could have done, what he could have continued to do. Would he be the leader in title defenses by now? Who knows? Because we thought that Ronda was just going to keep on winning, and then somebody found a way. So somebody could have found a way to mitigate his size and a raw athleticism, and be able to take him down. He actually almost lost to Shane Carwin. I think he should have lost that fight when he fought Carwin. It was a great fight, back and forth. That first round was totally Carwin. He completely destroyed Brock, and I thought that fight should have been stopped towards the end of that first round. And they go into the second, and that's where it ended up finishing. So great fight, but you never try to leave it to the judges, and you always fight to the whistle. So could have seen some pretty big things from him. We could see some big things from CM Punk as well. So yeah, once everybody realizes you're a one-trick pony like Ronda or Chuck, once they figure that out, and then we don't necessarily know it's over though, Rest, because again, we need to see Ronda come back into the cage and figure out how much she has taken from this loss and be able to transform her game, because we know she has, obviously the armbar is a big thing for her, but we have seen her knock some people out as well. So she has some striking abilities, and we just need a chance to see what more she brings to the table. So I think that we're going to see a little bit different Ronda Rousey. She could make herself champion once again, but the mental side.
That's to me. That's the real challenge. Is after when you're so dominant. It's one thing when you lose early, or it's like you see it in pro football or in basketball when teams have these great seasons. Like in football, you see these teams that go like 15-1 or 14-2. They're not necessarily accustomed to losing in the regular season. So it's just when they get down in games, it's just hard for them. Yeah, they haven't been in that position. So like Ronda Rousey, yeah, she's lost before, but it was as a,
amateur.
So how she bounces back now, and sometimes when you see these fighters who are, we'll say 10-3, sometimes they're the better champion because they've had to bounce back from those losses and they know mentally what it takes.
Yeah.
Someone like Miesha Tate to me is a perfect example who's suffered losses in her career, but she's still just mentally she bounced back and she has confidence, and that's a big thing too. It's just and you see that in boxing a lot. A lot of times, fighters, especially after they get knocked out, they kind of lose that confidence, and if they get exposed with a glass chin or whatnot. But I'm anxious to see how Ronda bounced back.
Yeah.
Rest obsessed. I was a huge Brock Lesnar. I love to watch him fight when he was in UFC. And he was just raw, much talent, and needed to be. And again, I brought up his first Frank Mir fight. He was doing really well. Then he got exposed. It was fun to watch, and he left himself open. And of course, he got put into submission. But then we saw what happened. I think it was at UFC 100 or UFC 101. When they fought again, and of course he won that fight. Alex, I got to get going. Go ahead, Alex. What's up?
One quick last. Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
One last thing I do want to say about Ronda and where she is at mentally. Miesha Tate was on the Joe Rogan Experience just recently, and it came to light. She brought up a story that Paige Van Zandt had told her. Paige came up to Miesha and told her of a Reebok a photo shoot that she was doing with Rousey, and she'd seen Rousey around. It was more of a high-buy type relationship there, but she said that Rousey approached her. Paige had been told by Reebok personnel, do not ask for a picture, do not go up to her, do not find her stay away. She asked why. They said, just trust us. Rousey sought out Paige Van Zandt, basically just MF'd her and completely said that she was a fair weather featherweight or something along this, a fair weather bitch, and something about being a featherweight. And it's like, where did this come from? But apparently it was due to the fact that Paige congratulated Holly Holm after she beat Rousey. So you also have to take into account not just her mentality when it's coming to fighting itself, but just in general outside of the cage, doing other stuff. And it's like, that is such a nitpicky, tiny thing. She's picking on somebody who is 20 pounds, fights 20 pounds less than she fights at. And it's like, where the hell is this coming from? I mean, after a game in Little League, you go and you shake the hand of the team and say good game.
Yeah.
It's just a congratulations. Hey, good job. And Rousey completely flew off the handle. It was completely unnecessary. And it's like, okay, well, maybe she's a little bit too out there right now. So it may take a little bit of time until she gets to where she needs to be mentally. But there's plenty of stuff to happen between now and then, whenever win is. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Are we going to get the old Ronda? Are we going to get a new Ronda? A new Ronda, is it going to be good or bad?
Time will tell. Maybe she wants to feel better about herself by taking it out on someone smaller and who she probably knows that she could beat. Hey, Russ Obsessed, thank you so much for watching and chatted in.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, man. So we talk a lot of mixed martial arts, or specifically UFC. And Alex actually works for a radio station down in Tampa. But for Russ Obsessed, for you and everyone else watching, if you want more, you can check us out on Facebook and just like our page, please. Just look for AM Sports with Alex Martin. We also have a Twitter account. You can follow us on Twitter at AM Sports Guys. Check out our website, amsportsguys.com. And if you want to watch a replay of this video and all of our previous videos, just go to YouTube. Just search for AM Sports with Alex and Martin. It's a channel I created and has all the different videos that we've uploaded. All right, thanks again for everyone for watching. We talked some Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather, Ronda Rousey, and pro wrestlers going to MMA world. And what else did we talk about? What was the first thing we talked about? Oh, Dana White selling, or the rumor mill. Yeah. Room it.
Is it for sale or isn't it?
Room it. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Take care.